Welcome back, everyone. So I made a video of my hot takes before, but I actually realized right after that video went out that I had a hot take that I had meant to include, but I forgot. And it came up recently in a conversation, and I thought, well, I've got some more hot takes, so how about another video? Okay, so editing Leslie just jumping in for a quick moment because I realized while editing this video, completely forgot to put a spoiler warning. So, because I'm a bit nervous about the content of this video. But anyway, spoilers in this video through to Knife of Dreams, which is book 11 of the Wheel of Time. So if you've read up until book 11, you're good to go. Otherwise, bye! But anyway, with that out of the way, let's get to it.
Let's be nerdy, babe. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy. Let's be nerdy, babe. Let's be nerdy, babe. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy, babe.
So, the hot take that I forgot to include in my last hot takes video involves a rather infamous scene from the Dragon Reborn. I'm talking about the Matt and the girls in the dungeon scene, where Matt rescues the girls. Now, you probably noted my hesitation in saying that, or I mean, if you didn't, I'm just going to highlight my hesitation there now because I know that that's how people talk about that scene, right? And it is true. Matt did come and open up the dungeon door, which was something that up until that point the girls had not figured out how to do. But I hate the framing of that scene as Matt rescuing the girls because it completely diminishes, if not outright ignores the fact that they had 90% rescued themselves up until that point. They had managed from within their cells and without, or their cell, and without the ability to channel, to disable their two Black Aja captors, and had just begun to figure out how to open the door when Matt arrived. Now, I do think we're meant to conclude that this isn't something that they could have done on their own, but given what we see and when he shows up, you can, if you choose to, imagine that if they had been given enough time, they might have been able to figure this last step out. But of course, they didn't have to, right? Because Matt showed up just at that time. He showed up just in time. But that actually isn't my hot take. My hot take isn't that they could have figured it out on their own. My hot take involves the way the girls treat him when he arrives. But before I give my hot take here, I'm going to give a bunch of qualifying statements or some caveats so that people don't take this the wrong way. Okay, caveat one. Matt absolutely did something heroic here. Even if the girls had 100% saved themselves, he still risked his life to try and save them. He knew that he was going up against trained soldiers and the Black Aja, and he threw himself at the danger to save his friends without any hesitation. That's badass, right? Like, it's quite naive of him, to be honest. Caveat two. I do think that the girls treated him badly and owed him a thanks and an apology for how they treated him at that moment. That moment where they, or one of them anyway, picks him up with a power. I reread this scene just the other day to see if I remembered it correctly. And yeah, I don't even know what they were trying to do there. They were annoyed and frustrated with him because he was saying things that annoyed them. And so they picked him up with the power? I could almost forgive them if they had blocked his mouth with the power, because that would make sense, because they were annoyed by what he was saying, but picking him up, I can't even figure out what that was supposed to do. Like, I guess just intimidate them? I don't know, which that's kind of shitty, but whatever. Okay, so those caveats out of the way, here is my hot take. Or, okay, I don't know if it's so much hot as it is slightly warmer than average, but okay, here it is. I understand why they reacted to him as they did in the moment. Or at least I think I do, because I know I didn't notice how they treated him until it was brought up later by Brigitte my first time reading the series. The end of The Dragon Reborn is really, really exciting. We've got 4 different fights going on at the same time. We've got Rand fighting the Shadow Spawn, Matt fighting the Defenders, Perrin fighting Dreams, I guess, and the girls fighting the Black Aja. And when I'm reading it, my main focus is the girls in the cell. Their fight is the most interesting to me. Second most interesting is Perrin's fight. Then it's Rand versus the Shadow Spawn, especially when he starts being smart and using the one power. And the least interesting part of the climax to me of The Dragon Reborn is Matt's fight to get into the stone. I know his fighting is badass, and I can recognize that intellectually, but it's physical fighting, and it's just not as engaging to me as magic. I think things like the sword fights and whatnot, I think they might be a rare example of something that for me, seeing it visually is going to help me. Because right now, as much as I appreciate how Jordan wrote fight scenes, like they sound beautiful, I can't figure them out. I can't picture them. And so I read it and it sounds pretty and then I see who won. I don't really follow what's happening during the fight. So I say all of that to say that when I read this part of the story, I am very, very much in the girl's head. I feel like I am with them throughout that battle, more so than any of the other characters during that climax. And so when Matt shows up, I feel their surprise and confusion, their reaction to him. While not, well, obviously it's not ideal, it makes sense to me because his presence all of a sudden, it doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, I'm a teacher, right? And occasionally I will see a student of mine outside of class, maybe at the supermarket or the movie theater. And while sometimes, very rarely, they will act like normal human beings, more often than not, their reaction to seeing me in these moments, it's pure madness. I've had children, typically developing children, not children with disabilities or children who aren't neurotypical. I've had children just point at me and yell. I've seen them drop things out of their hands, food, books, etc. Most often, though, they will just stare at me with their mouth like a gape and not answer me at all when I try and greet them. They are not reacting properly to me because I am out of context and I don't make sense to them in that moment. That's what I feel from the girls in this scene. Not like they're adults and not children, so one would expect them to behave better, I suppose. But they've also just been engaged in a fight for their lives. And so there's a lot of stress and tension that I would say would impact their ability to process things properly. And suddenly there's Matt. And like he just appears and they have no idea what's been going on outside of the cells. He's just there. Their reaction to me, I mean, like besides picking him up with the power, it makes sense. It feels natural. They're not showing gratitude to him for rescuing him or, doing the last step in the rescue because they aren't fully processing that he's there. In the moment, his presence is just, it's confusing. Like, even me, I've been reading the book, I've been watching him come all this way because I find his part of the battle the least engaging and the girl's part in this the most. I feel their confusion and the reaction to him makes sense to me. And I'll also add, I fully get them not realizing how wrong it was, their reaction to him, until it was pointed out to them by someone who could see it from the outside. Sometimes you do need someone else to point stuff out to you. Hell, the next hot take on my list is something I didn't notice until someone pointed it out to me. So, okay, my hot take is not so much hot, it's nuanced. It's a hot, nuanced take. Shout out to the Wheel Takes podcast. I think they treated him badly, but I think a lot of the fandom indignation at this slight towards Matt ignores how humans are, how high stress the situation was for the girls, and how his sudden appearance would just feel completely out of the blue and confusing to them. The same way when you see someone, at least this happens to me, maybe not, although I know this happens to other people, but maybe, I don't know, it happens to me all the time. When I will see somebody out of context that I know very well, but they're in a completely different context, a completely different location, I will know them very well, but I can't remember their name because they're in the wrong place. That's what I see happening here. So, yeah, my hot, nuanced take. So, okay, my next hot take. Min is problematic. And okay, as I said, this isn't something I noticed by myself. I'm quite ashamed of this actually. I should have seen this, but I've got blind spots of my own that I'm trying to get rid of. Now, what do I mean by problematic? I'm not talking about the Min is a sexy lamp thing. You can see all my thoughts on that in my Min video. I'll link to it below. I'm not talking about the mixed feelings that Min evokes in some of the fandom, especially in the female fans like myself. Although I will get to that in another point in this video. I mean, Min does some pretty problematic stuff. I made a video about sex and sexuality in the Wheel of Time in which I talked about Min and Rand's first sexual encounter and my problems with it. And okay, I still feel all of the stuff in that video. Not going to get into it here, but the fact that I focused on Rand and what I didn't like about his behavior in that moment, to me now, that is a sign of my own sexism, my like conforming to or subscribing to beliefs associated with toxic masculinity because, yeah, Min does some problematic shit there. She kisses him, and he tries to pull away, and she won't let him. Min, if enthusiastic consent, it applies to all parties involved in a sexual encounter. Now, I think we're supposed to infer that he does want it, the same way we're supposed to infer that with Lan and Nynaeve during that scene where the text explicitly says that she kicks and punches Lan to get him to stop kissing her. And like both of these scenes are just no, 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 no means no. If someone is trying to stop you from kissing them, you stop kissing them. I'm gonna say that flat out. That is a rule that all of us, all genders, we should abide by. But okay, if this was the only problematic thing Min did, I just okay, erase it. I'd erase it like I do that part of Lan and Nynaeve's kiss, because I know it's a trope. It's a somewhat common trope, and I know why it exists. It's purity culture. Like, nice women can't be shown to want anything sexual, and I guess in this instance, Rand too can't be shown. I don't know, but okay, it's not the only problematic thing that Min does. And again, my blind spot shows itself when Min shows up in, is it Kyrian? Whatever place it is where she shows up and starts sitting in Rand's lap. Rand is uncomfortable with this. He is especially uncomfortable with it in front of other people, and she is explicitly, intentionally trying to sexually arouse him in front of other people. She's basically trying to give him a boner in a business meeting. And she's grinding on his lap. Like, if you flip genders in this scene, it becomes impossible to ignore. But we have been conditioned by our culture and the toxic masculinity that infuses it to think men always want it. Men are not allowed to not want it under any circumstances, even when apparently trying to engage in international diplomacy during the apocalypse. No, he always wants it. And okay, I already know someone is going to leave a comment that says something like, oh, but he does like it. The text says that he does. And yeah, the text also says that women enjoy being sexually harassed, that women are flattered by being groped and pinched by strangers, that women, while being kidnapped, are offended that their captors don't want to sexually assault them. These are things that the text says that make me go, oh, no, 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 RJ, no, what are you doing? And this behavior of Min's should have been a part of that for me. But it took a comment that I wish I could find, but there's just too many comments, to make me realize what she was doing. She's sexually harassing him. I'm honestly ashamed that I didn't notice it before. I talked in that Sex and Sexuality video about how I read the Thailand situation for years and how ashamed of that I was. And yet, this is another one of those where I go, oh, damn. Yeah. I still have a lot to learn, or in this case, kind of unlearn. I guess it's kind of comforting, I suppose, that I still have some growing to do. I'm not done. Okay, does this mean that I don't like men? No. Much like that part of the Lan and Nynaeve kiss and a few other things, I'm just going to add it to the list of things from the books that I pretend don't happen, because I don't know, I want to like men. And I think this very much falls into the category of, oh, it's very much a product of the pervasive toxic masculinity beliefs about men, and also very much a product of its time. It was actually on the list before of things that I pretend don't happen. I don't know if it made it to my video, though. But it was on that list for the wrong reasons, or, I don't know, for not complete reasons. Because it was on the list because of how cringe it was. Imagining my girl Min, like, doing this gave me intense secondhand embarrassment, and I couldn't handle it. It was like watching Scott's Tots, like, from The Office. Like, that's how I felt. Like, it's too cringe. I can't handle it. But now, there's so much wrong with it. And so, yeah, it just goes on that pile. This didn't happen. I have to just erase it from my mind so that I can move on. All right, the next thing, or things, I guess, on my list, it's sort of a meta hot take. It's 3 things, but they're all sort of in the same category. And it's things in the books that being in the fandom, like the Wheel of Time fandom, has tainted for me. Tainted. Sorry. It's a double pun, taint, because taint, and also taint because of the books. But whatever. Okay, moving on. As I've said many times, I read these books mostly in isolation, so I didn't really know the opinion of the fandom about anything until quite recently. And while being in the Wheel of Time fandom has been an overwhelmingly positive experience for me, there are few things that have been tainted by. So, yeah, off the top of my head, things that have been tainted by the fandom for me are number 1, Min, number 2, Matt, and number 3, Nynaeve's "Will he ride alone" speech. So let's start with number 1, Min. Min has been tainted for me by the fandom. And again, I don't even mean the sexy lamp stuff. I mean the way that she gets talked about by a certain segment of the fandom, a certain male segment of the fandom. The way she is talked about as the perfect woman, as best girl. God, I hate that term. I've even read many fans talk about Min as the only likable female character, and when you read their explanations of why they like her so much, it is entirely about who she is to Rand. She's loyal to Rand. She's with Rand. She's by his side. She's there when he needs her. It's not about who she is as a person. I've even had comments on my own videos that begin by saying, "No, I don't just like her because of who she is to Rand. I love Min as a person." And then in that same comment, the comment will devolve into talking about how she's the only one who Rand trusts unconditionally and he needs her and she helped save the world because she was there for him. Like, these people don't even realize that when trying to talk about Min, they end up talking about Rand. And it frustrates me, and it makes me think that these fans aren't seeing her, and probably aren't seeing any of the female characters as actual people, which is why, again, I've seen so many talk about Min as the only likable woman in the series, because I think she's the only one who doesn't really have any conflict with any of the male characters. That's why she's likable, because she's so agreeable, and it pisses me off. Now, I have read other explanations from people who have Min as their favorite characters, usually women, and they will go into reasons that have nothing to do with Rand, and it makes me so happy every single time because I really liked Min, like unconditionally, before entering the fandom. And so those comments, those justifications for liking her, they feel like they're like a soothing balm to me. Like, yes, she's a good character, and I still like her. Don't get me wrong, but now she's just tainted for me. I get frustrated because of how she's talked about, and it makes her a complicated character for me to think about. Another one, Matt. What the fandom has tainted for me about Matt is that he gets praised and lauded for things that female characters get hated for. And a lot of this actually can be distilled into a scene from Lord of Chaos, where Matt arrives at Saladar, and he walks into a tent, and he sees Nynaeve, Elaine, I think, and Egwene sitting at a table. Egwene's sitting at a table, and she's wearing the Amerlin stole, and he walks over to her, rips the stole off her neck, yanks her out of her chair, and then sits on it, puts his feet up on the desk, and proceeds to mansplain all over the damn place over the multiple attempts of the women trying to explain the situation to him. When I've heard this scene talked about in the fandom, what is usually focused on is what Nynaeve does at the end. She kicks Matt in the butt. And I've heard this used as just like a prime example of why Nynaeve is a horrible, bad person. She's unlikable. She's aggressive. She's just so terrible. This is why I hate Nynaeve. And it drives me insane because what did Matt just do? He walked into the room knowing that the women couldn't channel at him, so he knew that he was going to be a big, strong man, stronger than all of them. He physically ripped the stole off of Egwene's shoulder and then physically yanked her out of her chair. He started the physical violence. I've also heard people then will go, "Oh, but they channeled at him." And yeah, they did. You know when they did that? After he yanked the freaking Amerlin seat out of her chair. They were defending the Amerlin seat, or maybe she was defending herself. We're not sure who does the channeling. He used physical violence to dominate the room, and then Nynaeve kicks him. And after she does that, he looms at her. Like, seriously, read it. He tries to use the fact that, again, he's a big, strong man, stronger than any of them, and they can't fight him because they can't channel at him, to threaten her with more physical violence, more than he's just done. Her kicking him, apparently, according to large segments of the fandom, is proof that she is an awful person. But him doing the exact same thing, by which I mean, he's using physical violence to gain control, that's fine, because it's Matt, and he's charming, and he's got a good heart. He's got good intentions. Fuck that. So does she. Nynaeve has a good heart. Nynaeve has good intentions. But she's not nice. And look, I agree, actually, Nynaeve is not nice. Nynaeve is kind, but she's not nice. And women, apparently, if they're not nice, you can't like them. Matt's not nice, but it's fine. Matt's mean a lot of the time. He says mean things, but it's Matt, and so it's fine. And okay, this is just one scene, but there is so much of this. Matt getting loved, or at least forgiven, for things that female characters get hated for. And I love Matt. Matt is my favorite of the boys, but when I read these scenes, there's just a part of my brain that is going, oh man, if any of the women did this, like there would be paragraphs of comments, essays written about how awful the insert female character name here is for doing this. And it taints those moments for me. The final one on this list. Nynaeve's "Will He Ride Alone" speech. Oh god. Okay, I love this moment. I still cry whenever I read it. But, again, being in the fandom has tainted it for me because I have read too many people say that it is when they finally started to like Nynaeve. And okay, I think that alone might be fine. Or I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. But if you combine that with the fact that so many people will call it her best moment, her most badass moment, her biggest moment, that just, it fucking pisses me off. Because what? Her "Will He Ride Alone" moment is a fucking side quest for Nynaeve because her husband is on a stupid mission to go and die alone in the Blight, and she has to save him from his own stupidity while trying to also save the world. How the fuck is this her best moment? Not when she healed Stilling? No, not when she saved Egwene from slavery? No, not when she defeated a Forsaken with barely any training in how to use the One Power? No, that's not her best moment. Not when she beat and captured a Forsaken in the dream world while not being a Dreamwalker? No, that's not her best moment. How about when she helped Rand defeat Robin? No, now that's not her best moment. How? What about that moment in the very first book when she tried to fight a Forsaken with a belt knife? Or when she helped clean Sidene, or any of the myriad amounts of times that she willingly and without hesitation, much like Matt, or without a second thought, threw herself in direct danger to protect and help her friends. No, none of those are her best moments. No, it's apparently a speech that she gives in support of her man. That's her best moment. What books are these people reading? What about this is her best moment? Is it because she isn't doing anything untoward in this moment? Is it because she's being a good wife? She's being supportive to a male character that you like? Like, okay, I get to this moment in a reread and I'm crying because it's great. And there's this voice, this tiny voice in the back of my head going, so many people think that this is her best moment, and I want to scream. Okay, so I've calmed myself down, and I think that's enough ranting for now. I am not looking forward to the shitstorm that I am anticipating in the comments, but okay. There they are. More of my Wheel of Time hot takes. So yeah, nervous as I am, let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you still like my content and want to support me, you can check out my Patreon, which will be linked in the description. To my patrons, as always, I am so grateful for all of you. You really do make this possible. I thank you so much. And with that, I will end this here. So please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!